My life was optimized. I'm a UX designer, which is a fancy way of saying I spend 10 hours a day making apps so intuitive that a toddler could accidentally order a new sofa. My apartment in San Francisco is a monument to minimalism. My diet is a series of algorithmically balanced meal prep boxes. My social life is scheduled on Google Calendar. My world is clean, it is efficient, and it has zero friction. Then my boss, in her infinite wellness wisdom, decided my 2 weeks per year of unused vacation time was a liability. She told me I was burned out and forced me to take a sabbatical. A sabbatical. I didn't need a break. I needed to finish the new UserFlow integration. But HR was firm. I had to go somewhere, and I had to disconnect. So in a fit of passive-aggressive compliance, I booked the most aggressively disconnected thing I could find, a 3-week intro to homesteading course at a place called The Good Soil in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. I figured I'd go, ironically check out the analog lifestyle, and spend the whole time secretly wireframing my next project on my phone. The first thing I learned about The Good Soil is that there is no cell service. Not one bar if you stand on the roof. I'm talking zero. The place was run by a guy named Adam, who picked me up from the one bus a day station in a 20-year-old pickup truck that sounded like it ran on stubbornness and rust. He was the human equivalent of his truck. He was in his late 30s with a quiet, unsettling competence. He was broad-shouldered, wore a faded flannel shirt over a thermal, and had hands that looked like they'd been carved out of oak. His beard was trimmed, but practical, and he had the calmest, steadiest green eyes I'd ever seen. He looked at me and my sleek, hardshell carry-on, and a tiny, almost invisible smile touched his lips. "Urieli," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah, the Wi-Fi password is?" "We don't have one," he said, turning the truck onto a muddy, potholed dirt road. "Ha, very funny." He just glanced at me. "It's not a joke." My blood ran cold. The farm was a collection of rustic cabins, a large communal barn, a huge, chaotic garden, and a lot of animals that seemed to be actively plotting an escape. My cabin was a tiny one-room box. It had a wood-burning stove and a single, bare bulb that cast a sad, yellow light. The bathroom was a 100-yard walk to a shared composting facility. This wasn't a rustic chic Airbnb. This was a survival situation. There were 4 other students, all various shades of crunchy, granola types who were thrilled about the authentic experience. I was the pale, terrified city mouse. The next morning, the work began. And Adam, it turned out, was not a gentle teacher. He was a force of nature. He was patient, but his standards were absolute. He didn't lecture, he just did. "This is how you split wood," he said, handing me an axe that felt like it weighed 50 pounds. My attempt was a disaster. I missed the log completely, and the axe head buried itself in the dirt. Adam just sighed, took the axe from my shaking hands, and split the log in one clean, perfect thwack. "Again," he said. He tried to teach me to milk a goat. I was terrified of it. It was terrified of me. I ended up with an empty pail and a shoe full of goat milk. He tried to teach me how to weed a garden bed. I pulled up 3 tomato plants. I was useless. I was a high-functioning, 6-figure-earning adult who could optimize a checkout flow in my sleep, but I couldn't keep a goat from kicking me. I was a failure in this analog world, and Adam saw it. He didn't coddle me. He'd just shake his head, a look of profound, weary disappointment on his face, and say, "Go turn the compost, Eli. Try not to break the pitchfork." I hated him. I hated his competence. I hated his calm, steady voice and his stupid, capable, calloused hands. I was counting the seconds until I could go back to my world of clean, logical code. The breaking point happened a week in. It was my turn to do the early morning open up, which included feeding the chickens. I walked into the coop, and it was chaos. Feathers everywhere. The feed bags had been ripped open. And in the corner, a raccoon with the cold, dead eyes of a serial killer was staring me down. I did what any logical, terrified person would do. I screamed. I ran out, slammed the door, and basically curled up in a ball on the porch of the barn. Adam found me there 10 minutes later, shivering in the dawn mist. "What is it?" "A monster," I gasped. "In the coop. It's huge. It has a mask." Adam's expression didn't change. He just sighed, grabbed a pair of thick leather gloves from a hook, and walked into the coop. There was a brief, violent scuffle, a lot of angry animal sounds, and then he emerged, holding a large, hissing raccoon by the scruff of the neck. He just held it. The raccoon, sensing it was outmatched, went limp. Adam carried it to the edge of the woods and let it go. He came back, looked at me, still huddled on the porch, and then looked at the absolute disaster of the coop. I can't do this, I finally whispered, the humiliation total. I'm not like you. I don't know how to fix things. I don't know how to do anything real. I expected him to laugh at me, to tell me to go back to the city. But he didn't. He just sat down on the step next to me, not too close, and stared out at the rising sun. Nobody's born knowing this stuff, Eli, he said, his voice surprisingly gentle. You think I knew how to do this? I was a finance guy in Portland. Wore a suit every day. Hated my life. I came here 5 years ago and almost burned the barn down trying to light the stove. I stared at him, stunned. You wear a suit? A very well-paid, very miserable suit, he said. This stuff, it's not about being real. It's just about being patient. It's about being willing to look stupid. You just have to be willing to fail at something until you don't. He stood up and offered me a hand. His hand was rough and covered in chicken feed. I took it, and he pulled me to my feet. Now come on. Let's go clean up this mess. I'll show you how to patch the wire. That's when things changed. I stopped seeing him as a rural demigod and started seeing him as a person. And I stopped trying to prove I was good at this and just tried to learn. He was a good teacher, it turned out. When I was calm, anyway. He showed me how to hold the axe properly, how to put my weight into it. I finally split a log. It was the most satisfying thing I'd done all year. He showed me how to knead bread, his big hands guiding mine, showing me how to feel the texture of the dough. Stop thinking about it, he'd say. Just feel it. Is it smooth? Is it fighting back? That's all. Just feel. I started to get it. This life wasn't about a lack of logic. It was a different kind of logic. It was tactile. It was about listening and feeling and responding. It was UX design for the real world. My last week on the farm, a late-season storm blew in. It wasn't just rain. It was a cold, driving, angry wind that rattled the little cabins. That night, my wood-burning stove, the one I had been so proud of finally mastering, went out. I don't know what I did wrong. The flue, the damp wood, whatever. 1 minute it was fine. The next it was just smoking, filling my tiny cabin with a bitter, acrid haze. I was coughing, my eyes watering. I threw open the door to the wind and rain, trying to air the place out, but it was freezing. I was cold and wet, and I couldn't get the fire to relight. I was failing again, and this time it was dangerous. I finally gave up. I grabbed my jacket and made a dash through the mud and driving rain to the main farmhouse where Adam lived. I pounded on his door, feeling like a pathetic, drowned rat. He opened it, and he was just in a pair of old sweatpants and a t-shirt. He'd clearly been asleep. He took one look at me, soaking wet, shivering, streaked with soot, and his expression went from sleepy to alert in a split second. My stove, I chattered, my teeth knocking together. It's out. It's full of smoke. I can't get it to work. Okay, he said, his voice calm. He didn't lecture me. He didn't sigh. He just grabbed a pair of boots and a heavy jacket. Go back to my room. It's warm. Get out of those wet clothes. I'll go fix your stove. But, go. Now. It was an order. I was too cold to argue. I stumbled into his house. It was nothing like my condo. It was warm, and it smelled like wood smoke and coffee in him. His room was simple. A big, sturdy, unmade bed, a bookshelf overflowing with paperbacks, and a couple of worn-out armchairs. I did what he said. I peeled off my wet, smoky clothes, dropping them in a pathetic pile on his floor. I was shivering so hard I could barely stand. I saw a thick wool blanket on one of the chairs and wrapped it around myself, my whole body shaking. I sat on the edge of his bed, just trying to get warm. And then I must have just collapsed. I woke up a few hours later. It was still dark, the storm still howling outside. But I was warm. I was under the covers of his bed, tucked in tight. The wool blanket was still around my shoulders. And in the armchair by the now banked fire, Adam was asleep. He hadn't fixed my stove and come back to kick me out. He'd fixed it, come back, found me passed out in his bed, and just let me sleep. He had taken the chair. I lay there for a long time, just watching him. His face, in the soft glow of the embers, was unguarded. He looked tired. I saw the calloused, capable hands that I had once envied, and all I felt was a profound, aching tenderness. He wasn't a demigod. He was just a man. A good, kind, patient man. I fell back asleep, really, truly asleep, for the first time in as long as I could remember. I felt safe. When I woke up again, it was morning. The storm had passed. Adam was gone, but the smell of coffee was coming from the kitchen. I found my clothes from last night, now dry, neatly folded on the chair he had been sleeping in. I walked into the kitchen, feeling shy and ridiculously vulnerable. He was at the stove making pancakes, his back to me. "Morning," he said, without turning around. "Sleep okay?" "Yeah," I said, my voice rough. "Yeah, I did. Thank you, Adam. For all of it." He finally turned around. He wasn't smiling. He was just looking at me with those steady green eyes. "You're not useless, Eli. You're just new. You did good." And in that moment, him telling me I did good felt more important than any promotion, any design award, any line of code I had ever written. "I have to go home tomorrow," I said, the words tasting like ash. "I know," he said. He put a plate of pancakes on the table. "Eat." We ate in silence. It wasn't an awkward silence. It was the same, comfortable, working silence we'd developed in the garden. When we were done, he looked at me. "You know," he said, "this place is always here. We could always use another pair of hands. Especially one that knows how to build a half-decent website." I stared at him. "You've seen my website?" "I have Wi-Fi in the house, Eli," he said, a small smile finally appearing. "I'm a homesteader, not a caveman. Yours is not intuitive. The user flow is a mess." I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. "I could fix that," I said. "I was hoping you'd say that," he said. He reached across the table and covered my hand with his. His hand was rough and warm, and it felt like an anchor. "Stay a while. Help me fix it." I looked at his hand and at his kind, steady face. And I knew I wasn't going back to Chicago. Not yet. Maybe not ever. "Okay," I said. "Okay. I will."